Today I'm talking to Jalen, the automaton, who has a really good YouTube channel featuring content about schizoid phenomenology and different issues related to living with schizoid personality disorder. So, hello, Jalen.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Okay. Yeah, what I like about your channel is that you're able to communicate in a clear and concise way, and you put across a lot of points um, from like a deep sort of personal perspective, and I found it like very relatable, like the way you presented your topics.
hmm
Right.
Like with my videos, like I did a lot of like research and like looking at a lot of other people's experiences, but when I make my videos, I try and be personal because like my own personal experience will always be something new because like other people don't go through it. Like it'll be a lot it's just a lot more better for me to give out information from my personal life because there's always like a new twist and a new spin than from the like academic sources. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah, because it comes across with a lot of authenticity to the feel to it, you know, and as I said, it's very relatable. So, do you think that discovering that you have schizoid personality disorder has helped you to like understand yourself better, like as a person?
Yes, because like I always thought that it was just because I was introverted. Like I was just like, okay, I'm an introvert, so I guess that means I don't like people. But
Mhm.
when I was really thinking about stuff, like I was coming to the conclusion that it's a lot more deeper than just me not liking people. It's a lot more of like a perspective or just like me viewing
Mhm.
reality differently. It's not just me wanting solitude, like it's something else. You know what I mean? Like even just with
Mhm.
me being by myself, like there's elements to that as well. And when I found out about schizoid personality disorder and was looking back at my own life, looking back at things that I do that correspond to the schizoid personality, like things just became a lot more clearer and concise, and like it made sense. Like I realized that I wasn't really just off the knockers. Like there are people that are normal and going through the same thing that I'm going through.
Mhm. Before you like found out about like the word schizoid and the disorder, were you looking in other areas for answers, like as to why you were different from other people?
Yeah, so I went to a therapist, and like I went to the therapist and I talked about everything that I was going through, but like schizoid personality disorder isn't really talked about a lot. Like even in
Yeah.
the psychological community, it's not really talked about a lot. It's not a personality disorder that's covered as much as like maybe narcissism or borderline. So a lot of people don't know about it. So when I was talking about my experiences to the therapist, and I was like, I don't really like people. I try to stay away from people. I was explaining this to him, and it came off as anxiety, even though it's not really anxiety. I'm not afraid of people. It's just that I don't relate to them. I don't like being around them as much. So like I went to my therapist, and after my therapist experience, I was like, not like anxiety. That's not it. So like I really just did my own background research, looking through the DSM-5, finding out about the personality disorder, looking at people's experiences with the personality disorder, looking at like development of people with the personality disorder, and now it's like this is most likely it. This is most likely like what I'm going through right now.
Yeah, I could relate to that. So like, are you aware like what sort of age you might become aware that you were like different from other people?
Well, I've always been different. Like ever since I was a kid, I've always been different.
Mm.
Um, like even just like small stuff. Like when I grew up, like I had selective mutism. Like I was mute. I had to
Oh yeah.
go to like speech therapy, learn to talk. Do all that sort of stuff. And I was always into like different things. And even with like schizoid elements, I've had like the schizoid element of like disassociating and going into my imagination when I was a kid. You know, like I always was like in my imagination more than I was in my conscious life as like a kid, you know, playing around and stuff. You know, I would imagine myself as superheroes like 80% of the time. So like growing up, you know, those elements, they appeared, you know, they were always prevalent, not just going into adulthood when I actually found out, okay, this is what it is.
Hmm. And do you like find yourself like as an outsider, someone who is interested in analyzing people like from a distance?
Well, when I analyze people, like I like to analyze like the more deeper thoughts of people. And you know, there are sometimes like people will have conversations where I'll be able to like figure them out on like a more deeper level to where I can like psychoanalyze them. I don't really like, you know, small talk or like just looking at people walk around, but I like viewing something about a person that might have like tripped me up into how like I thought they were. Or let's just say I like when I view a person and like how they appear to me. Like, how can I say it? I like when people do things that shatter my expectations of them, if that makes sense.
Do you tend to like kind of make predictions about how you think people will act, like to
Yes.
see like whether you're on point about your judgments and stuff? Like, yeah.
Hmm.
So when you say you like when they shatter your illusions, is it because is that like, for example, if you had a negative expectation of someone?
Well, it's like I'm gonna just say like, you know, people like when you view a person, like you automatically like you have a stereotype of them. You know,
Mm,
like you'll be like, okay, this is most definitely how this person is. Like there's no way that this person is anything different from how I'm envisioning them in my mind. But sometimes like you'll hear a conversation or you'll see a person in a certain mood, and once you read it, you'll be like, wait a minute, like how I'm thinking this person actually is isn't quite the way they actually are. And when it comes to people watching, I like viewing instances like that more than I like viewing instances of you know, small talk and people just walking around and stuff.
right, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And like I saw like on your channel that you you like focus quite a lot on spirituality and like the human condition. Do you think that like learning more about the human condition has helped you in relation to relating to where you stand in relation to other people? Like
Yes,
for example, you is that yeah?
like spirituality, and it helps getting to like the core of like what I think it means to be human. Even though like spiritual systems can differ from you know, like area to area, just like researching them
Hmm.
and seeing how they relate to me, it kind of just helps me find like core content of, you know, who I am and what I am that will never change no matter how hard I, you know, I try to change it.
Alright, okay. And you made a couple of videos on alexithymia and anhedonia.
Hmm.
Yeah. And how do you think that this has affected like how you interact with people?
um with alexithymia and anhedonia, like it just makes it to where I don't even really talk to people because I know that I'm gonna get bored. Like the only way that like I'll talk to a person is if like I have to. It's if like I have to like gain something from them, or you know, get something from them, or you know, if I'm bored and out of common courtesy and manners, you know, you hold the conversation. But just for small talk and just like just normal conversation, it doesn't really hold my interest that much. You know, I get bored very easily and I don't really feel anything.
Mm,
So I try and avoid people when it comes to it triggering like my anhedonia. And with alexithymia, with people like, you know, certain people like, I'll kick it with them, but I don't really understand or trust if I'm really kicking it with them, or if I am bored and I'm just conversating really well with them. Like, I don't really know, like, if the vibes or if the interactions I'm having with people, if it's really like true, like if that's really how I'm feeling, or if it's just something that I need to brush off, if it's just a feeling that I'm overhyping.
All right. So the lexophonia that what you're just talking about is the inability to read your own emotions and also a limitation in the amount of emotion that you can express. So you're saying that in social situations, sometimes you're not really sure about how much, like, how other people are perceiving you or how much you're perceiving them, like in terms of how much there's a good connection going on. You mean like
Yeah, I can't really trust like when it comes to like connections and like the feelings that sprout up from those connections. I don't know if what I'm feeling is how I'm interpreting it as in my head. I
right?
feel like
Yeah.
I'd be overreading like how I'm seeing the situation. You know what I mean? If
Hmm.
that makes sense. I'm trying to explain it in like the
Yeah.
best words I can.
Do you find like when you're in the social interactions, do you ever take on the feelings or personality of other people you're around? Like, do you sort of sometimes sync with them to the point where you sort of lose yourself a bit in the interaction? Like,
Yes, when it comes to well, it depends. Like if I have the energy for it, like I'll mask. If I feel like it, I'll mask and I'll like get into like the emotional headspace of other people. But sometimes I'll be honest. Like sometimes like I'll just let the flat effect ride itself out if I'm just not vibing with like a group whatsoever. Like I'll just
mm,
let the flat effect and just the monotoneness just take over, because some people it's just way too much energy to keep the mask up, while other people are very cool. And while I might not feel anything, like I might not feel as much as they do, I'm still considerate of them and I still like appreciate their company. So I'll still have that mask up, even if I'm not feeling as much as they think I'm feeling.
right, yeah, that makes sense. So, would you say, like, do you know the difference between cognitive empathy and emotional empathy? Are you aware of those terms?
Hmm.
So I would say that cognitive empathy is the ability to understand what people are going through by just using like sort of mental processes and maybe logical deductions. And I'll put emotional empathy as being able to feel what other people are going through from an internal emotional point of view. So, out of cognitive empathy and emotional empathy, do you think you can do either both, or like to what degree do you feel you relate to empathy?
I feel like I can do both. Like I can feel the empathy of other people, and I can sort of intellectualize like how to act if a person's feeling us like some sort of way. But I prefer to have like more of a response that uses my cognitive empathy more than it uses my emotional empathy, because like if I'm absorbing a person's emotions and I feel the gravity of like what they're feeling internally, like I don't think that I will be able to have like a logical and reasonable solution for like how to fix that problem, like with emotional empathy versus cognitive empathy.
Right. So, would you say then with the cognitive empathy, like can come to more clear-headed conclusions, like for problem solving?
Yes, with cognitive empathy, I can come up with like more like reasonable and more like longer lasting solutions rather than just having emotional empathy. Like I feel like if I feel a person's emotions, like I'll make like an irrational emotional response. Like I trust my ability to make decisions based purely off of like my logic rather than like my own emotions. It's just always been
Mm.
more. I can trust my logic and my reasoning more than I can trust my emotions. Because like whenever I use my emotions, like it doesn't seem like it works as much as using my head.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And do you like find yourself dissociating frequently? And does it ever like interfere with you like completing tasks or getting things done?
Um, like when I was like in middle school or whatever, like I would always just stir off into space. Like I can lose my attention, but like with disassociation, like a lot of times it's always with like my emotions. Like I talk a
Mm-hmm.
lot about how like I've always, and I talked about this in like a very recent video, how it just feels like I'm disconnected from just negative emotions, you know, just like my negative, just a negative pit of emotions that I feel like if I release them, then I'll be much better off. But I'm like so disconnected from like my emotional self to where like, you know, I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't really grieve. I can't really express no intense joy or happiness. It's just nothing there. But the thing is though, while like I believe there's nothing there, like I still experience that stuff like within my imagination, you know, like within like my unconscious space. I still like experience all that stuff, but just in the conscious world, it's just not there. But you know, it has to be there because like I'm imagining myself in those situations, experiencing those feelings. So it's always this disconnect from like who I really think I am versus like how I act out in the real world. It just doesn't connect.
Okay. And do you think that, or have you found that over time that like say like you're disconnected from your emotions, has this disconnect become stronger with time? Like, or has it been sort of consistent? Like, do you find yourself becoming less and less connected to your emotions with time, or would you say it's sort of been a consistent thing?
It's become a lot more stronger because like when I was in high school, you know, like I feel like it started more so in high school that I was aware that there was just like an emptiness, but you know, I just brushed it off as depression or whatever. But over time, it's just grown more and more, and it's connected to like more and more emotions. Like it's just gotten like the hole has gotten like a lot bigger. You know what I mean? Like it's gotten like a lot worse, and it's covered a bigger area within my mind. You know?
Yeah, like, is it a little bit like, I don't know, like your emotions? Yeah, they're in there somewhere. You know they're there. You can't connect with them, but it's like they're in the darkness, like you can't see them and you can't feel them, but you feel that the energy from them, that you know they're there, but you can't register it, sort of.
Yeah, it's like they're there, and it feels like that there's two. It feels like there's two parts of me, like when it comes to like all of these emotions and stuff. Like there's the part of me that like hasn't experienced those emotions for so long and like wants to like see what would happen if I felt them like just once. But then there's that other part of me that, you know, I recognize it, but you know, I'm not really truly connected to it. And like that part of me it's not withholding those emotions out of like spite of myself or that, you know, it hates myself, but it's holding those emotions to protect me. So there's the
Mm.
part of me that, you know, wants to connect to those emotions, but then there's like this more hidden part of me that is withholding them because it knows that whenever I've expressed these emotions in the past, or whenever I've expressed these emotions to the people that I trust, it doesn't work. So you may as well keep them like buried within the more deeper recesses of, you know, me.
Mm.
It's like there's just two
Yeah.
halves.
Right. Do you feel like it would be too much if by any chance those emotions were to get released, that it would be too overwhelming for you? Do you fear that if your emotion, do you have any fear related to emotional connectivity that you're conscious of?
I don't really know. I feel like
Mm,
right now I could say that it would probably be awkward because it's not normal. That wouldn't be normal for like day to day
mm,
Jalen. But with not being able to with not experiencing these emotions for like years on end, it might be terrifying. But I don't know because I
mm.
don't really know what an experience like that would be like. I can't really say.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I get that. You mentioned earlier that when you was a child, like that you was quite creative and that you used to pretend to be like superheroes and stuff like that. So I take it that like you relate to being a creative individual. So like are there other ways that, I mean, fast forward into now, are there other ways that your creativity like manifests itself? Like do you have outlets for it?
Yes, like with my creativity, I think my creativity is more so in like idea creation. Like I think I can
Mm,
come up with like I admire the ideas and the like philosophical insights that like I come up with, and I'm very honest about like how I view the world and how I view reality. Like if you look at
mm,
my channel, you'll see stuff like predeterminism. You'll see
mm,
freaking taboo videos like freaking is incest wrong, but I'll be making videos like that, and they're crazy. But the fact that I'm an outsider and the fact that I understand that these are ideas that I think about and I put lots of time and energy like into them, I don't care about broadcasting those ideas because
mm.
I'm an outsider and I'm confident in the peculiarities of who I am as a person, even if I talk about the negative aspects of that on my channel.
Mm. I think I agree that like being out of the box, like there's for me really there's no topic that's off limit. Like if it exists, it can be examined. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, I relate to that broad mindedness that you're talking about. And also like I saw you were reading archetypes from cards as a form of like sort of self therapy. Would you say that's like part of your creativity, like reading like cards and occult sort of practices? Is that
Yeah.
something?
So with that, it's like I use spirituality and the occult to like go into the unconscious, to go like into those spaces, because especially like with some magic, like with invocation, where you take on the like identity of another spirit. Like if I take on the identity of another spirit, and let's just say that spirit is like that spirit's energy is like intense anger or something like that, and for some reason, like I can feel like intense anger within me sprouting up. Well, I can use the excuse, like I can trick myself and say, okay, well, it's not me feeling this, like the spirit's feeling this. So it's okay for me to like let this stuff out. Like spirituality and like tarots and oracle cards allow for me to like trick my unconscious to go through experiences that like normal everyday me might not be able to do.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. And I was wondering about with your thought process, like, because you've got a lot going on in your mind, you like cover a lot of deep topics, and I can tell that you think a lot. Do you find yourself, or do you experience the phenomenon of overthinking? Do you find yourself overthinking, and does that sort of influence your ability to get on with your everyday life?
Yeah, like with overthinking, it's always like pretty much like probability based. Like
Mm,
whenever like I'm about to make a choice, like I can always see like the probability of many other choices that will come back, that will come about for me making that one choice, it like branches off into trees or whatever. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
always afraid of like making that one decision because I don't know what will happen after I make that one decision, because like anything can happen,
Okay.
and I overthink like on that level, when really it would be a lot more better for me to just like, do it, get it over with, and just brace myself for what happens next, whether it be good or bad. And a lot of times, like, I'll over exaggerate the situation. Like a lot of times, like the situation is like a lot more simple than I make it out to be.
Right. Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Uh, do you tend to like sort of worry about what could go wrong, like things like that? Do you try to plan for all eventualities?
I don't plan for like all eventualities, but like um whenever like I just have to do something, like there's always a negative. I'm always viewing the negative. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I can be optimistic, but if I had to be honest with a lot of the way that I view situations, it veers more so into pessimism than it is optimism. So I always think of like, dang, like, something bad like this could happen if I make this choice. So it's just it's just always something bad could happen if I do something. So it always scares me into like not wanting to do it.
Okay. And I was also like wondering about your relationship, like with your physical body. Like, do you feel like a disconnect between your mind and your body?
Um, like a disconnect between my mind and my body. Like, I don't know. Like, the closest thing that I could think of being like a disconnect between my mind and my body would probably be maybe more so like, I guess, sexuality. Cause like in my head,
Hmm.
like, I be in a lot of like different relationships, and I can envision myself being with a lot of different people in my head. But like in real life, in real time, like I'm not attracted to anybody. Like nothing arouses me. So that's like the closest thing I can get to between my mind and my body. But like just in general terms, like I've gotten a lot more better with, you know, being in my body, like observing my body, being proud of my body by working out and stuff. So that's helped out a
Hmm.
lot.
Right, because you got the name Jalen, the automaton, and I was wondering if it's because like you find yourself going on autopilot a lot, or anyway, you can fill me in on that.
hmm So with Jalen the Automaton, like the name is pretty much based off of like the first video that I made, based like with like predeterminism,
Hmm.
because like with an automaton, it moves based off of like a certain process and off of certain tasks that it's supposed to be doing. So when I name
Hmm.
myself Jalen the Automaton, it's pretty much saying that, you know, no matter what I do, no matter like how much free will I interpret myself as having, like when I was born, I was predestined to fulfill like a certain destiny. So it's pretty much just saying that I have a lack of free will when I call myself an automaton.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Well, I had another question, which is, do you have any methods like to self-soothe or to make yourself feel better, sorry, or any coping mechanisms that bring you comfort that help you to deal with the SPD?
Yes. So when it comes to like that, I voice record. So like I voice record, and that's pretty much like journaling. Like, I'll have like a journal that I write in, but I don't have that like with me all the time, especially like when I'm in the car, like, and there's like nothing to write on or nothing like that. So like I just will talk it to my phone like this, and I'll put the recorder on, and I'll just spit out what's on my mind. Like it might be ideas, it might be like emotions. It might be like a bad experience that I had that day, but getting it out of my head and just like putting it somewhere, like I find that to be a lot more. It's a lot more healthier, and it's a lot more better than just keeping it all stored in my head where I might forget it. So that helps out a lot. Working out, that helps blow off a lot of steam and a lot of pent up energy that I might have throughout the day, just getting myself tired. A good shower doesn't hurt. And, I do a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, I particularly liked your video when you were analyzing your different parts, and you had like Jalen the turtle, which is like, I like that because of the schizoid analogy, and you had the different names of different parts of your being. And I find that really interesting because I think as schizoids, like we have the divided self, we have different parts, and we're like very like complex internally. And it seemed to me that you were finding methods to explore your own complexities and to like sort of bring it out into consciousness so that you could like sort of make sense of your being and things like that. So that was quite interesting.
Like, I was working on that before I even like discovered that I was like schizoid, because I've always been interested
Mm,
in Jungian psychology and exploring the
mm,
shadow. The shadow being, the parts of yourself that you don't like normally recognize as being who you are, the parts of yourself that you think are alien. So, like Jalen the turtle, Jalen the satyr, all of these like archetypes that are me, that like I say aren't, which actually are. Um, like when I do that sort of stuff, it just helps me to accept that, like you said, those are parts of my being. And then also looking out in the real world and just finding like things that I blow off, like maybe experiences and things that I do that, I blow off as being insignificant, but that actually contribute to like those things within like my shadow book. Like the shadow book being there helps to, map those things out and to actually say that yes, they are meaningful. And, you might think that they don't correlate to you, but yes, they do actually correlate to you.
and like, do you sort of create people within your mind? Like, do those people, like, do you have like sort of, do you run dialogue through different characters in your mind and things like that? Does that help you to, I don't know if that's part of your process or not.
Like I have comfort situations like in my head. So like I'll have a comfort situation for like ambition or whatever. Like if I feel like I'm just like not achieving like a whole lot, then I'll just have like a comfort situation that I play out in my head, and I play that out and I just get absorbed into that situation like in my imagination, and like that feeling of like non-ambition, like it'll go away, or I'll have a comfort character in my head that represents something that I feel is pure and beautiful, you know. So I do have things like that. I have characters and you know things that I talk to, things that I interact with, situations, movies, like all sorts of stuff that are in my imagination that I play out to provide me with like a form of solace. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like you're using your creativity to sort of comfort yourself in different ways. Like you just got lots of different methods that you use,
Yeah.
and that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it does. And I really liked when you made the analogy of the supernova, like because I've actually thought that about myself before. I actually do that same word, and the analogy just it hit home a lot. I thought I was surprised because I'd never heard anybody say it before. It was only a thought that was in my mind. So I thought I really did resonate with that.
Yeah, because I mean, just because we have a personality disorder and we're schizoid doesn't necessarily mean that our decisions don't impact the world around us like any other individual. would. You know what I'm saying? It's just the way
Mm.
that I impact the world around me and how I interpret it is going to be different. A lot of people have like a localized, center of being, a star. Me, I just have stuff that's like all over the place. I just have elements that are everywhere. But, me working through it and me like still interacting with my environment still causes, shifts in the world around me, even if it's not as, you know, everybody else does it.
Yeah, I think that really for us, it's like we got to learn to function in a way that's different from the majority of other people. And then as we grow up and we're looking around us for like signs of like what to do and how to be, there's not really any signposts for us. Like the signposts are for people who are more than neurotypical people, but for us, a lot of the signposts don't relate because we're sort of running on a different system internally. And I think learning to like sort of live under your own guidance and your own instruction, it's not easy, but I think that's really kind of what's necessary because I think really taking the instruction from the outside world, I think goes a lot against what we are because we're disconnected. So to take instructions from something that you're not part of doesn't really make a lot of sense. That's how I see it.
Yeah. I was watching your video about nihilism and how that,
Mm,
can tie into schizoid personality disorder. And I think, that can relate to like what you're saying. Like with like schizoid personality disorder, because I am a nihilist. Like even though I do believe that, there's a certain set end or a certain set path that people follow, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's meaningful, like
mm,
it's just the way it is. But like with schizoid reality, just having this empty core and everything, like you do have to figure out a way to maneuver around like feelings of emptiness, feelings of um, like not knowing who you are at times, being distant from certain parts of yourself, whether they be emotional or existential. So you do have to create like guides and tenets for yourself as you go along throughout your life. You do have to maneuver differently, like you were saying.
and I think when I saw you looking into like using the archetypes, I could see that you was like creating your own meaning out of things as you went. So you're using them as sort of like a little bit as props, but from that you're just extrapolating your own meaning. So rather than being like maybe another person, they might go out and talk to someone else and ask them, "What do you think?" Blah 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 blah. You just like sort of take it into your own hands, you know. And I think that's a challenge. I think really for a lot of us is to just finding the methods and the ways that work for us as individuals, and because we're all different, like different things like work for different people. So it's interesting. Everything you said has been interesting to my understanding of things. But yeah, I think I actually did run out of questions now for now. But you've given me a lot to think about, and yeah, I've enjoyed having you as a guest. And I just wanted to know before you go though, is there is there any more things you'd like to say about your channel? Like for example, you said that you created your channel so that you could sort of keep a diary or a log or export what's inside rather than keeping everything bottled inside of letting it out. Is there anything other things you'd like to add about your channel that I don't know you've been thinking about? Do you like to share?
Um, no, I think like with my channel, what comes out in the future is gonna be as big of a surprise to me as it will be to other people. Like when I make videos, it's literally what like I'm feeling like at that moment. If it's intense enough, if I view it as important enough, then like I'll make a video about it. So one day you might get a video where like I'm giving informational schizoid content, then the next you might get like a super depressing video like with my shit seems pointless video where I just go like
Mm.
off the deep end. But
But
it's
it's all real though, isn't it? It's
right,
all it's like
it's
what I like
real,
about it is that
that's how I feel.
it's like you're showing the wave, the ups, the downs, the in between, the whatever's. It's just real, like Yeah.
Right. So like with my channel, if I had to say anything, it's like I'm always gonna try and be as real and as 100 as I can try and be. Like I'm not gonna lie. That's all I would say.
Mm. Okay, well, thanks for agreeing to be a guest on this channel, and it's been really good talking to you. I found it interesting and informative and insightful. That's three eyes, so very good. And yeah, take care.
All right.
Okay, bye.